Hi everyone, my name is Ritvik Ramakrishnan, and I would like to welcome you to my ISM II final presentation. So I am a current senior at Memorial High School who has been studying data science these past 2 years, and I'm very excited today to show you guys what I've done these past 2 years with the ISM program. It's been a journey to say the least, but it's been awesome. So when we look at our society as a whole, whether it be business or medicine or law or even sports for that matter, all of these different fields have information, and that information is processed through data. And that data is stored in a database, and it's just stored and stored and stored. Think of it as like your trash can, right? Your trash can just keeps filling up and up and up, and then what do you do with it? You throw it away. And that's kind of what data has been like in the past. They just collect all this information, most of which they just felt was useless information, and they just wouldn't do anything with it. But these days, we're starting to realize that we can actually use the data for good. And that is what the field of data science is as a whole. But the best way to explain that is to really look at Jenga blocks. If we look at 2000 representing one Jenga block, that constitutes the amount of data that we would have collected by society. Now we look at 2020, which is just 20 years later, here in today's world, we have a castle worth of data, if not even more. And that really shows you the amount of factors that data has increased from the past 20 years. And it's due to all of these emerging technologies, all of these predictive capabilities that all of these different devices have. And it's just crazy to see how our world is changing and how our world has grown ever since, especially during the midst of COVID-19. And just looking at this, you can really just see that there is just lots and lots of information, and there's so much potential for there to even be a career that can look into data for a living. And that is why I want to introduce you guys to data science. And data science is ultimately the combination of math, statistics, and computer science, along with public speaking, storytelling, and business acumen. And those are just a few of the many things that data science does. And that's actually what piqued my interest when I was looking into potential careers to do for my ISM journey. Data science definitely stuck out to me because it was a way for me to integrate all the things I truly love in both inside of school and outside of school and put them together and morph them into a career and see if I would enjoy it. And to say the least, I've definitely enjoyed it. And I am definitely going to be using data science sometime in my career for sure. So the ISM program, as I mentioned, I started my junior year. And the biggest thing that differentiates regular students who do ISM from the successful students that do ISM is their ability to trust the process. And that is what my man Joel Embiid always said, as I'm a huge Philadelphia sports fan and he's from the 76ers basketball team. He always said, you got to trust the process. So in ISM, how did I trust the process? Well, with the career and industry forecast, like I mentioned, that was an opportunity by beginning of my junior year to really see if data science was a good fit for me. I looked at things ranging from the salary that they got all the way to the degrees requirements and maybe even a typical day of a data scientist. I did tons and tons of research to really figure out if this was the right fit for me to spend my whole year studying. And it sure was after doing that. On top of that, I look at weekly progress blogs, so I actually write my own blogs every week saying what I've accomplished in the class and ways that I could improve my productivity or even what I'm doing as a whole to further my learning. I also wrote research assessments, and these came in different shapes and forms. So I would either look at videos related to data science, maybe TED Talks, or even articles that are related to the field, just a way to further enhance and enrich my learning. I would also do cold phone calls. I would randomly pick up the phone and call a data scientist to see if they're willing to schedule an interview with me. This was a way for me to really put myself out there and get out of my comfort zone. It's a very nerve-wracking thing for many students to do. However, I felt like I truly benefited from the process of just putting myself out there and really trying to be the best version of myself and taking all of Mr. Purtle, my ISM teacher's words, into good hands. I conducted 15 to 20 interviews during my junior year to really just learn about different data scientists. And the reason why you might wonder why so many is because of the fact that data science can be applied to any field. Anything really is data. So for that reason, you can apply it to law, business, medicine, sports, really anything. And that's the cool part about this field. And that's also why I chose it, because it allows me to not really narrow a particular field, but rather, know for a fact that I want to be a data scientist. I then acquired a mentor, Mr. John Miller, who has been my mentor for the past 15 months. He's been fantastic and invaluable in really teaching me how to approach data science projects, which I will discuss further later on. I also built a display board, and that kind of showcased, the various aspects of what a data scientist is. And I also have a digital and binder portfolio. If you visit www.ritvik.ism.weebly.com, you'll have a compilation of all of my research assessments, interview assessments, along with my last year's presentation to really just showcase the work that I've done these past 2 years. So another important thing to discuss is definitely my ventures with Mr. Matthew Pirtle. Mr. Pirtle has been a fantastic ISM teacher, to say the least. I've been able to nominate him for various awards, along with calling him for my top 10 luncheon. So he's definitely my favorite teacher. And he's taught me so much about life in general and just about public speaking and really being the best version of yourself as a whole. We have had tons of life talks, and without him, I wouldn't be who I am today. So what did I learn from Mr. Pirtle, you may ask? And the answer is I've learned so much. I've learned how to craft resumes. I've learned how to formulate voicemails. I've learned how to practice my phone calls. We would do tons of practice in class. We would prepare for interviews and have mock interviews during our class time, drafting emails, messages, having warm-ups to really get myself thinking, and mentoring outside of ISM matters, similar to what I was saying before. So that was another thing that I did during my ISM journey. So that's an important thing to note as well. So the top qualities that my mentor had, Mr. Miller, include the fact that he was a very hardworking individual. He definitely really showed me the value of hard work and how hard work can really reap results. Additionally, he was a very credible source. I mean, he was a top 100 Kaggle data scientist in the entire world. So I knew that the mentorship that I would gain from Mr. John Miller would be invaluable for me to really learn what the process of data science is like. He's very patient and really answers all of my questions because, especially with the technical skills, if there are things I really don't understand, he's there for me, and he's really kind-hearted and approaching in that sense. He's very organized with his time schedule, and he's very dedicated to what he does, and that's really, truly what I love about Mr. Miller. So the data science process for problem solving. So prior to me going into the various things that I was able to do during my independent study and mentorship journey, I want to really just take some time and talk about what that data science process is like. So the first thing that you do during a data science project is identify your key idea, your key question. We call this in data science the use case scenario. It may not necessarily be a problem, but maybe an improvement. Maybe there's just a way for you to incorporate data in some sort of shape or form. It's a project that you can take on and has a variety of steps. So that's really what you got to identify. Before you do any sort of data science, you got to identify what that is. You got to observe it and really come up with that research question. From there, you hypothesize maybe like a scientist. And like I said, or like I will say, it's nothing but a scientific process. So everything that you do in data science, and that's why it's called a data scientist, because it's nothing but a scientist that looks at data. So you're gonna really just go into that zone of whatever domain you're looking at. You may be looking at microbiology. You may be looking at a business use case scenario. You may be even looking at maybe patterns in the NFL. Whatever that's going to be, you're going to gain that domain knowledge. Step 2, you're going to learn about it, because the thing with my mentor especially is he's not a typical data scientist that works in a particular domain for a company, but rather he jumps from project to project that may focus, ranging from AI products all the way to business to even a court case using data science. So he has to learn about each domain, each topic. Then after that, you collect data. You get all of that data in maybe, so to speak, like a basket or a jar, and you collect everything, all the information that you can use to potentially solve a problem. Again, note that you don't have to have everything perfect. You just have to collect the information that's related to your topic of study in that scenario. Step 4 is going to be data cleaning. So from there, you're going to clean out and organize, okay, which ones do I need? Which ones do I not need? For example, if I'm looking at the NFL, do I really need to know how many tackles BJ Raji has? Or, how many touchdowns Tom Brady has thrown? Those are all questions that you got to answer based on your narrowed scope. But maybe you might need to know the amount of field goals that Cody Parkey kicked in a given season. So it really just depends. And step 5, data exploration. You then now have everything that you want to look at, and you go in and dive. like a scuba diver. You just dive into the data and you go and like data mine, and that's what they call data mining. So like you mine and you just find, the treasure that you're really looking for. Step 6 is data science. Data science is what I'm studying, but a lot of people misconclude data science as being only the 6th step, because all you hear when you hear data science is machine learning, artificial intelligence, predictive analytics. But data science is that entire process, guys, and that's key to understand. So after you do all of that data collection, data cleaning, data exploration, then you get to the data science, which is that true machine learning application, that true artificial intelligence application, really building these forecasting models, doing some sort of data visualization, looking at patterns, seeing what's good, seeing what's not. I could keep going on, but that's really what data science is, and that's why it's such a big buzzword these days. From there, you're going to deliver insights and recommendations. Note that I didn't say solutions. These are recommendations. These are mere recommendations. Because of the fact that data science, to an extent, can be subjective just because of the fact that you're forecasting. Like, for example, for COVID-19, which I'll talk about later, that I'm working on projects-wise, you can't really predict when COVID-19 is going to end. You also can't predict how many deaths there are going to be. I mean, no one really knows. So for that reason, you can't provide a solution, but you can provide recommendations, like say, hey, I recommend you to open it between this date and that date, schools, because of the fact that 85%, whatever. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about recommendations in that regard. Now looking at last year. So last year I conducted an original work that basically was a social impact for social good sort of original work. My take on data science last year was, how can I integrate data science and combine it with social good and really make an impact on my local community? And I thought about it really, really hard, and I realized that the way for me to do that was to look at traffic. And Frisco is one of the fastest growing cities with around 30 people moving in every single day. And for that reason, traffic can be a huge issue, and especially delays in signal timing. For instance, if you're at a red light and the other side is green, and there are no cars, that kind of frustrates you as a driver. So figuring out all of those things and using predictive modeling to really relay recommendations was something I was super interested in doing. So for that reason, I decided to go and consult with traffic engineers Brian Moen and Curtis Jarecki to really just understand, what do they collect on a traffic engineering standpoint when it comes to data. And thankfully, Frisco has the second most advanced signal timing tracking technology in existence, in the US at least, which is really good for my project because I got a lot of great data to use to really provide and relay recommendations. So my mentor and I, with my mentor's help, obviously, I was able to build a machine learning model that basically relayed recommendations as to how they can reduce delays in signal timing. Since I can't do Q&A during this virtual presentation, I know people last year were asking me what kinds of recommendations was I able to provide. And one that I can provide in particular that was actually implemented by the city of Frisco is the addition of the right lane in the Preston Road and Lebanon Road intersection. The Preston and Lebanon intersection is the most populated intersection in the city of Frisco, with around 65,000 cars passing by on a daily basis. And for that reason, I said by adding that right lane, because there's a lot of space there, we can add a right lane, it reduces traffic and reduces volume of traffic there by 23% in the next 3 to 5 years. That's just an approximation. Once again, a recommendation. And also it reduces traffic in regards to the average waiting time at a red light by around 5 to 7 seconds. For those reasons, I provided those recommendations and they were able to implement advanced signal timing procedures, which was very, very cool. So that was what I did last year. And this year, I actually was able to do a lot more cooler things, which I'm very, very excited to discuss. But prior to discussing what I did next year, I want to talk about a method that I really used to help create my original work from last year, and that was a logic tree. So I read a book which was basically given to me by my mentor, Mr. John Miller, called Problem Solving 101, which is given to second graders in Japan to really understand how to solve problems. And one of the suggestions that they gave was a logic tree. So you really see here, I'm taking traffic flow and breaking it down into so many different ways. And that's how I was able to make my machine learning model very reliable. And that's why the traffic engineers were able to feel somewhat convinced about my recommendations. And ISM 2 in general, prior to getting to my projects that I was completing, is a lot different than ISM 1 in the sense where students have a say as to how they want to customize the program. For ISM 2, my goal personally was to apply my data science skills more because ISM 1, I did tons of research, I interviewed a lot of data scientists, and I gained a lot of knowledge about what the field was. But I didn't necessarily feel like I was tech savvy in the world of data science, so I wanted to go from knowledge savvy to tech savvy, if that makes any sense, and sharpen my technical skills. I also wanted to do a lot more projects to keep myself busy and find ways to just really combine data science with social impact. Because that's really my goal. Like at the end of the day, data science is a great field. It's a great way to make money. But I feel like the jobs that I want to do, or at least something that I want to spend my time doing a lot, is either philanthropic work of some sort, or maybe my career being tied into some sort of social impact or giving back to the community. And that's really what I'm very passionate about. And for those reasons, that's what excites me to do certain data science projects over another. The first project, which was super exciting, that I'm glad to share, is actually last month I was able to receive a professional certificate in data science from Harvard University. So Harvard University provides a EDX course that covers 9 courses in data science. And that gives you a lot of different skills and versatility to really just become, a pretty decent data scientist, at least doing some basic projects. So I started around August or September, and I proposed it to Mr. Pirtle, and he approved it. He said it was a great idea just to keep myself self-paced and keep myself accountable and stuff. So I learned about fundamental R programming skills. I learned the language of R, which I had not been too familiar with before, since I knew a lot of Python and Java. I also learned about statistical concepts in tandem with my AP statistics class, such as probability, inference, and modeling, and really just how to apply them, like Monte Carlo problems and whatnot. I also learned how to implement machine learning algorithms like gradient boost and XGBoost and all these different cool stuff that you can use. I additionally gained in-depth knowledge of fundamental data science concepts through motivating real-world case studies. I looked at a lot of different case studies. It was really cool. We looked at criminal rates. We looked at, airplanes and, so many different really cool case studies that where I could apply data science to. And that's what I keep talking about during this presentation, that I love case studies that are interesting and particularly social impact. The second original work is an actual project. So I obviously talked about the skills I gained technically through a certification program, but also I was able to do some sort of predictive analytics with my free time. So during the month of January and February, I spent some time with Mr. Miller and did the Kaggle competition, which was predicting the NCAA tournament outcomes. And I know what you guys are probably thinking. I know the NCAA tournament was canceled, but I can always use my model for next year, which is a good thing. Otherwise, I would have shared my outcomes with you guys today. I would have hoped to share some good news, but no one was able to enter just because it was canceled. So what I was able to do with my predictive model was, given a matchup between two teams, our goal was essentially being able to use historical data and really to just understand which team would have a better chance of winning over the other. It would be a percentage from 0 to 100, so maybe 69.4% chance of Team A winning over Team B, and then you have all of these 0.694, you have all of these different variables, and you add them up, and then you do a lot of averages and a lot of statistics, so like I talked about in my certification that I was able to learn, and apply all of those statistical concepts to come up with these models. And here we have a violin plot that really shows like prediction versus truth. And you can see like we did a pretty decent job. We applied our model to 2019 because that was already like the outcomes were already there. So we took the data up to 2018 to predict 2019 as a simulation. And this is what we got. So as you can see, like these are just nothing but 5-number summary plots. So we would be pretty close to the numbers. And that was something that was really, really compelling on a statistical standpoint of things. So that was really, really cool. And we use what we call a gradient boosting classifier for these regressions and classification problems, which really allowed us to produce those predictive models. The third original work that I was able to do, of course, in this whole COVID-19 situation, as a second semester senior in high school, I've definitely been trying to find ways for me to get more involved and really keep myself on my toes in the regards to just having things to do and not losing track of like my technical skills and the hard work that I've put into the ISM program. And what I decided to do was pivot from my NCAA model into COVID-19 global forecasting. So there was another competition that I told Mr. Miller, and I was like, hey, I know that NCAA was a bummer, but we can still know for a fact that this competition won't be canceled. So we decided to go ahead and enter our models into the COVID-19 global forecasting competition. So what I was able to do was I did a lot of the coding and a lot of the work where I was able to identify factors that affected the transmission rates of COVID-19. And I really just looked at different things like confirmed cases that varied with different China provinces. I know that my graph is kind of cut off here, but those are the China provinces highlighted in different colors respectively. If you can look closely at the PowerPoint to the bottom of that, I have the different countries that basically have showing that violin plot of how their growth are, and you can see tons of differences there. So that's the important part here. And I used another model instead of gradient boost last time. I used Sarimax Stata Arima time series modeling, which shows the visualization of projected growth. So that really helps create some sort of smart growth algorithm and allows me to really plot that over time. The fourth original work that I was able to do is my coronavirus visualization team involvement. So it's been a really, really cool COVID-19 situation for me. A lot of different startup opportunities for me and a lot of different business and volunteering opportunities for me. And one of them has definitely been CVT. CVT is an organization started by a Harvard freshman named Lucas Chu. And he's been really, really great at allowing data scientists, whether they're currently in college or maybe they do as a career or maybe even very ambitious high school students like me, to join this organization and contribute to the community. And I joined the coronavirus visualization team initially as just to poke my head around and see what was going on. But I really found myself super passionate and super involved in all the projects. I initially did a Twitter data analysis project, which looked at tweets from COVID-19 and kind of relating to the growth. Like, for example, if would more tweets from a particular region correlate with the growth of COVID-19 from that region? That was kind of one of our questions. We used Twitter data analysis to try to answer that, so to speak. And that really got me a lot of promotions in the organization. So I'm actually a project lead for our time series geospatial dashboard project that's going to observe various factors before and after COVID-19. We're looking at things like hospitalization rate and just understanding how COVID-19 has affected our community. And on top of that, I'm also a co-lead of our partnership with Harvard Center for Geographic Analysis. So I am in very close contact with a few Harvard professors that work there, and we're trying to figure out ways for them to be mentors for our projects in CVT. Because in CVT, we currently have hundreds of members working on tens of projects, and we need these Harvard professors as mentors if we want to possibly create some sort of research paper out of it in the long run. So that's what I'm working on right now. Like, as we're speaking, that's actually what I'm working on. So that's a very cool project that I've been a part of. And speaking of promotion overall, I've also been appointed to spearhead coronavirus visualization community. So it was actually a motivation from the coronavirus visualization team because we've had a lot of members join. And obviously, we cannot have everybody do all of the projects. So what we decided to do was create a community, kind of like, think of like a subreddit where basically all of these aspiring data scientists and data visualizers can come together to do different projects on their own. And it allows people to connect from all over the world who are interested in using data to incite change in COVID-19 or to really just look at COVID-19 growth. So I was able to manage, and I'm actually managing right now, a global organization with over 300 standing members. And this is really just aimed towards fostering collaboration on COVID-19 projects. And we also have partnerships in regards to academic curriculum making and whatnot with Groundbreakers, COVID, and Beyond the Five. So we're actually in the process right now of creating curriculum on how individuals can basically conduct their own COVID-19 research. So I'm actually going to be teaching I'm going to be the lead instructor for one of the parts, which is the analysis and conclusion section of that particular course. So I'm also going to be a teacher, which is pretty cool. So like I said, I mean, it's crazy how opportunities come at you, and when you maximize them, they can really just change your life for the good. So essentially, just all in all, we're connecting people all over the world to engage in product production and other COVID-19 related research initiatives. Now, looking at 2020 as a whole, so I talked about all these different projects that I was able to do, and I think it's also important and also required by this presentation to talk about some of the achievements I've been able to fortunately receive. And the first is my valedictorian status. So I'm ranked 1 out of 320. And I did move from Lone Star High School where we had 555 students. So when I moved here, I was afraid whether I'd remain that rank or not. And fortunately, I was able to. And we have a very, very competitive class. A lot of people are going to tons and tons of great schools. So I'm very, very fortunate to be a part of this class. And I'm very thankful and honored to be the valedictorian of the Memorial's first graduating class, the class of 2020. I'm also a recipient of the STAMPS Presidents and Gold Scholar. So what they do is during the early action round of Georgia Tech's application, they have around 23 to 24,000 people apply. I'm just estimating 23,000 because that's the lowest. I didn't want to give a higher number. So out of the 23,000, they shortlist 325 as semifinalists. And what they do is they have you do a regional interview. And from there, they pick around 1 to 3 kids per state. So I was one of the 3 kids from Texas that was able to go to the Scholars Weekend and be nominated for this honor. So I'm very, very happy and excited to go to Georgia Tech, and it's going to be a great time for me where I'll be studying computer science. I'm also a recipient of the Coca-Cola Scholar Award. So how this award works is it's purely based on community impact. And as you've probably seen throughout my presentation, that's been my huge focus and passion. So it was a perfect scholarship for me to apply to. Since I didn't apply to many, I decided to apply to that one as one of the few. So out of 93,075 applicants, they had a semifinalist round for 1928 students. And then from there, I submitted a few short answer essays. They narrowed it to 251. And from there, 251 people had an interview. So we were regional finalists. And after that interview, they picked 150. So it was a long process, but I'm very, very honored to be a Koch Scholar. I'm also a first place recipient of the NTRP scholarship, which is a scholarship for students who relocate. So you guys may have not known, and you guys may have been kind of wondering because of Joel Embiid and my love for Philadelphia sports, but I'm actually a Philadelphian, born and raised. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, lived there my entire life, and I moved to Texas a week before my freshman year. So it was a huge change for me, and it was just crazy to move here. And then also the fact that I had to move from Lone Star to Memorial High School going into my 11th grade. So moving has been interesting for me, to say the least. So I was able to write about kind of my experience moving and how it's changed who I am and just my line of sight. And I was able to receive first place. So I'll be receiving a scholarship for them as well through the Worldwide ERC. And I've also been accepted into 13 universities. So I did get into universities that were, so to speak, prestigious, but I decided to go with the university that gave me the best opportunities, the best resources, and where I felt that I could be, put myself in the best position to succeed. Now, looking at pre-ISM versus post-ISM takeaways, it's important to note that since I've had 2 years of ISM, it's good to just talk about some of the things that I've been able to gain from this program. I've gained tons of confidence as a person. I used to be a little less confident on my public speaking abilities and whether or not my words were actually valuable to a set of people or if people really trusted what I had to say. So I realized that voicing your opinion is key, and especially coming from a background of having a speech impediment, I know for a fact that my ability to speak is something that I truly value, and I gift that ability because most people can speak, but I had to basically earn my way to speak because I couldn't speak until I was 6 or 7. So I value my voice as a gift. And I understand that to have leadership abilities, communication abilities, you have to voice your opinion. You have to have good public speaking skills. Additionally, a strong work ethic along with a driving passion will take you places. And that life is more than just academics. I thought that, studying, doing well, and doing extracurriculars, positioning yourself for college was the way to go and the norm. But it's really not. I mean, there's a lot to life. There's really just a lot of ways to interpret life on a philosophical note, on a psychological note. So I've learned a lot of things from ISM, and to say the least, it's been a great past 2 years. I want to give a special thanks and a shout out to my family. I'm the oldest of 3 younger siblings, Rasia, Rishik, and Raya, who have been wonderful supporters for me. And my parents, Amanappa Krishna and Lavanya Ramakrishnan, they've been fantastic. They've really given me the freedom and the flexibility to pursue my everyday endeavors, whether it's, tackling on these projects or even just, doing my extracurriculars that I love. They've been super supportive of everything I've done. And without them, I wouldn't be who I am today. I'd also like to thank my mentor, Mr. Miller. He's been there for the past 15 months, as I mentioned. Without him, I wouldn't be as good of a data scientist as I am today. And I'm really excited to tackle the field and do all of these coronavirus, opportunities through visualizations and run this community and, really get big things and big opportunities out of data science. Thank you, especially to Mr. Pirtle as well. You've been a great mentor for me as well, even though you're not technically not my ISM mentor. You've been a great life mentor these past 2 years. I've thought about life a lot differently because of you, and I'm really, really honored that I'm able to nominate you for my teacher pick for top 10. And I also have a special award awaiting for you if you're watching this. I don't want to say it on the presentation, but you'll be receiving a very special award, and I want you to be on the lookout for that. And of course, Frisco ISD. I mean, these past 4 years, the transition has been fantastic. Being part of the Principal's Advisory Council and the Superintendent's Advisory Council with Dr. Waldrip and fantastic students and Miss Redden, Miss Kraft from Lone Star High School, all you guys have been amazing. All of the teachers who have been so supportive and, really preparing me for whether it's the exams or just, teaching me about life outside of school. It's been fantastic. So I'd like to thank you all so much for shaping me into the person I am today. And I'd like to end with a very special quote that I feel like is very representative of how the world operates today. And it's this: the most successful people in the world are people who are more rejected than anyone else. And that was by Tony Robbins. So in general, you're going to be rejected. Everyone got rejected, especially with this COVID-19 situation. All of our seniors, we were born during a 9/11 situation, and now we had 3/11 come to us, which I'll be talking about during my valedictorian speech, spoiler alert, of the fact that how these 9/11 and 3/11 have shaped us. We were born during, 9/11, and now we are facing COVID-19 after 3/11. So it's just crazy how we faced so much rejection with, whether we were born or even graduation. And all I can say, guys, is it's going to make us successful. We're going to come out of this in a very successful way. And as long as you maximize your opportunities and resources, we will all go places. And with that, I'd like to thank you all so much if you've come this far for watching my presentation. And if you guys have any sort of questions you want to ask me, feel free to email me at ritvik.ramakrishnan@gmail.com. My LinkedIn is just my first and last name, and my Instagram handle is Ritvik Rama. So thank you all for listening to my ISM presentation, and I am looking forward to seeing what the rest of the future ISM looks like, and I'm just very excited to see how this program grows and additional ways for me to contribute to the program as a whole.